Hey, what's up, guys? It's Renaldo here. So this video is going to be some good news for a change, something positive in South Africa. And that, of course, is the fact that Dr. Pieter Groenewald, who's the Minister of Correctional Services, have said that perhaps South Africa needs to bring back corporal punishment for youth offenders. Now, before everybody loses their mind and start thinking about everybody needs protection, everybody needs to be looked after, a question for people that are old enough that received hidings back in the day. Did that hiding not fix your perception of what is important in life? Did Ses van die Bestes not change your worldview to the point where you knew the difference between right and wrong? And if you compare what's happening in South Africa today, specifically in the schools, teachers can't teach anymore because every single child has rights and every single child think that they can speak to a teacher the way that they want to. And in many cases, we've seen pupils that are actually attacking the teachers and assaulting the teachers because the teachers have no rights, but the pupils have all the rights. Now, before I show this article to you, you know the drill. Please be sure to subscribe, smash the like button, share this video far and wide. It'll be greatly appreciated. All right, let's have a look. And as always, thanks to Newsday for the brilliant article. Please be sure to go and follow them, newsday.co.za. And it says, South Africa's plan to bring back corporal punishment for youth offenders. Now, before you judge it, just maybe take cognizance of what the argument is here. South Africa's Minister of Correctional Services, Pieter Groenewald, has discussed the reintroduction of corporal punishment into the country's justice system. Groenewald discussed these plans on the State of the Nation podcast with Mike Sham and said it would be useful for youth offenders. Now, I'll link the video below of State of the Nation, and well done, Mike Sham, for the interview as always. We must start the discussion on corporal punishment, but not like it was in the past, he said. It must become part of sentencing. A little bit different. The use of corporal punishment was abolished in South Africa education systems in 1996 with the introduction of the South African Schools Act. This was strengthened through the introduction of the Abolition of Corporal Punishment Act in 1997. This act repealed any existing power for a court to authorize corporal punishment, including in traditional courts. The act repealed all laws which allowed for whipping or the death penalty and impacted sentencing for several crimes. Groenewald said the practice could be useful in cases of petty theft and similar crimes committed by juvenile offenders. Now listen to the reasoning and please tell me that it does not make sense. He highlighted that many young people arrested for petty crimes cannot afford bail, forcing them to spend time in prison while awaiting trial. And we all know what happens in prison. I would rather have 6 of the best, 6 van die beste, before you put me in jail. About 3,000 juveniles couldn't pay a bail of 1,000 rand or less, he said, showing the problem with young people ending up waiting for court proceedings in prison. His proposal for corporal punishment would be an alternative to prison sentences, which he argued could be seen as worse for the country's youth. It's more inhumane to put that juvenile in an overcrowded cell and everything that happens there. That's inhumane, he said. Please argue the fact. Please argue the fact. You can't, because you know it's right. Overcrowding is a major problem in South Africa's prisons, with some facilities such as the Knysna Correctional Centre exceeding 300% occupancy. In a parliamentary address in June, Groenewald said the overcrowding was not a short-term issue and would require comprehensive policy reform. Now, here's a corporal punishment in South Africa, and then they talk about the rights and how things have changed and how some children were abused. And of course, it's not acceptable, but you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, just because some people abused it. I want to focus specifically on this part. Groenewald acknowledged the opposition to corporal punishment, but said that the ethics of it should be weighed against placing children in prison. Let's debate that, shall we? Even if children are not ultimately given prison sentences for petty crimes, they may be forced to spend time in a correctional facility if they cannot afford bail. While many young people arrested in South Africa cannot afford bail, Groenewald said there are efforts to help them. And then, of course, he goes on and on with people that are raising money. Groenewald said this is also a relief to taxpayers who do not have to pay for unnecessary incarcerations while non-violent offenders await trial. So 2 positives here. The first thing is that the youth don't have to be incarcerated or put in prison whilst awaiting trial because they don't have enough money for bail. We know that there are some terrible things that happen in prison. So you are not having that ethical debate. And I think it's an ethical debate worth having. Do you rather want a child exposed to violent criminals in prison, or is Ses van die Beste perhaps a great alternative so that that child doesn't have to be exposed to what that side of the coin offers? This side of the coin is corrective behavior. And of course, if implemented by somebody that isn't there to actually cause harm and suffering to the child, then how does it not make sense? Because most of you that are watching this probably received a hiding in your life, maybe by a teacher or by a principal, and you want to tell me that that did not make you a better person? If you had to consider how many people now have trauma because of that versus how many people were actually better human beings after getting a hiding, I can guarantee you that it's 95 or even 99% versus 1% to 5%. So, if we want to play the games of statistics, it's quite obvious. And then, of course, the second benefit, it's not a burden on taxpayers anymore, because taxpayers are being taxed to death in this country. And we pay a lot of money to keep criminals happy in prison. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, considering that South Africa is one of the most violent countries on earth, and we have a lot of people that are homeless, does committing a crime not actually reward them with a roof over their heads and 3 meals a day? And perhaps that could be a reason that somebody is committing crime in this country. But then again, that is an uncomfortable question to ask, because we would rather avoid asking the difficult questions because of rights. Ultimately, though, there are two great arguments here made by Dr. Pieter Groenewald. And that is, the first thing is that it prevents a child from long-term trauma in prison. And the second thing is it saves taxpayers a lot of money. Now, I would like to hear from you. What is your take? Do you think that Dr. Pieter Groenewald, the Minister of Correctional Service, is onto something here? Would you accept corporal punishment be brought back for juvenile offenders? And would you even go so far as to bring it back into school if it was adhered to according to whatever law is put in place? Because there's no dispute that this country has got serious crime issues and serious discipline issues. And I think that by bringing Ses van die Bestes back, it can definitely assist a lot in making people realize, what is truly important in life and how they need to perhaps focus on improving themselves rather than screaming and shouting at other people. I mean, I know that there's a lot of politicians out there that if they got Ses of the Bestes back when they were young, perhaps they would have turned out to be upstanding citizens in this country. But ultimately, I'd like to hear from you and what your take is on that, so be sure to drop a comment below. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's absolutely free, and the overwhelming majority of you aren't subscribed. So fix that by clicking the subscribe button. And if you'd like to contribute financially to this channel, then you can click on the $ below, choose an amount, or you can become a member by clicking the join button below. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I went my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I went my massacre. I went my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I went my massacre. I went my massacre.